The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliate stations coast to coast present
Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue.
The 0-2, swing and a miss, strike three, blew it past it.
Discussing baseball, good drinks, and food.
And you got your honey mustard?
I love mustard.
With Ted Hicks, Todd Vandenberg, and Lee Vowell.
Well, big deal. I am very professional.
Every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on the Happy Hour Network.
And welcome to Baseball Beer and Barbecue, the NFL Playoff Edition with Todd, Ted, and myself, Lee. Like us on Facebook, follow us on the Twitter at Baseball Beer BBQ, and read us on our blog site, baseballbeerbbq.com, and our website, thehappyhournetwork.com, just to confuse everybody. So today we will actually talk with Pamela Michelle of Sports Infusion, Tim Lynch of Mile High Report about the Broncos, and Chris Schafer, who writes about the Panthers at Fansided. So I'll bring on the two better parts of the show, Todd and Ted. And who else do we have to thank today?
We have a whole bunch of folks to thank today, but especially NGSC Sports that powers us on the iHeartRadio network, I-95 Sports, Back Sports Page, RS Sports, XRP Radio in the UK, Arena Sports Network, and a special friend.
You know, sometimes in your life, there's someone who causes problems. You know, like maybe a mother-in-law gets on you a little bit, or you know, that really annoying guy at work who's always taking your crackers, or you know, takes your soup, your leftover soup out of the fridge, and your name is on it, and they still take it, and you need someone to fix that. You know. Well, Computer Repair NC cannot fix that, but they can fix any technology issue. Have it all. 919-653-8496 at CJ Computers NC on the Twitter. Computer Repair NC.
How do you know they can't fix that?
I contacted them about an issue I was having, and you're still on the air, so there you go.
Oh, well, that's a good point.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was a.
Well, that's an issue everybody is having, you know, with me being on the air. So it's not just you. So, you know, let's get straight into baseball talk. Obviously, we have a ton of stuff happening. It's going to be an extended show, just to let everybody know. So sit back, grab a beer, and listen to the soothing sounds of the Commodores. Anyway, Howard Kendrick has re-signed with the Dodgers for 2 years. Pretty good move for the Dodgers, in my opinion. They have a really good young second baseman in the minor league system, but I think Howie Kendrick signing for 2 years, he's a good player, is a good signing for them. You know, he definitely helped out last year as a solid player. So the Rockies and Rays also have a trade. Corey Dickerson's involved. You know, the Rays and the Rockies were, to me, it's like, oh, they're two kind of mediocre teams. It's like, woohoo. But, you know, the AL East is becoming so good with all the players they've added this offseason. Ted, what do you think about the Corey Dickerson pickup for the Rays?
I think it was a great pickup. Just to echo what you said, I like that the AL East is going to be competitive throughout, and I'm just I'm starting to get psyched for baseball. I think we're just at 32 days away before pitchers and catchers arrive. So it's more for baseball, less for the AL East, because you know I am an NL East homer. So,
yeah, and it's less than that. It's less than 32 days. It's only
20.
Yeah,
we're at 20.
It's 20 at the most for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Some teams are reporting just a little after Valentine's Day. So I actually spring training games start in 32 days. I think that's what it is. Yeah, they start.
Okay.
Same month. So. And I'll actually be in Phoenix during spring training for the Dodgers. I don't know if I'll get a chance to get over there, but hopefully I will. At least I won't catch any of the games. Maybe I can get over to the facility. So because they play in Glendale, which is about 10 miles away from Phoenix, and of course with travel and traffic, that means I'm 3 days away from Glendale to Phoenix. But you know, I hope to make it over there. So. You know, I mean, there's not a whole lot happening with baseball right now because we're still, you know, in between, but we've had our moves of the off season, and now we are about to start, you know, everybody reporting. And so we should go ahead and mention that in 2 weeks from today, actually, we're going to start our previews, and we'll start with the AL East Each week we'll do a different division, AL East and Central and West, and keep going from there. And we'll have Tom Dakers on again of Bluebird Banter, who, if you guys listened to us last year, was on a couple of times. He's a great guest, and he'll help us preview the AL East, all the teams, especially the Blue Jays, who, of course, won the division. And we'll see if he thinks they're going to win it again or what's going to happen, because it's so, as we talked about, it's so improved. So other stuff that's happening before we really get into football is Donald Trump skipped the debate with Fox News a couple days ago. What's that?
He's a bully.
Yeah, he's a bully. Hey, Glenn Beck, you've been, well, Ted is our resident Fox and Friends fanatic. And so, Glenn Beck, personal friend of Ted, did call Trump a bully. The debate drew 12.5 million fewer viewers than the last Fox debate between 9 and 11 p.m. Eastern Time. So your guys' take, Todd, we'll start with you. Your take on Donald Trump skipping the debate, and what do you think about it?
But before I get into that, I do want to mention the biggest move in baseball is Elysian Park Avenue will no longer be that. And as you know, it will be named after someone who is very deserving of it. So Vin Scully Avenue coming to a street near you soon.
Coming to a street.
That's and I mean, to me, that's huge news. That's wow. How overdue is that? 30 years overdue. So that's awesome. Anyway, as far as the Donald goes, and now it came out that he wanted $5 million to be donated to his charities, which okay, that's probably his fund to find his next immigrant wife. So whatever. Yeah, I'm not surprised that the ratings were down by so much, because the only reason people are watching the Republican debates is for the sideshow, for the circus. It's not about the substance at all. And a lot of times debates aren't, but in Republican debates, that's all it is. It's just a circus. What's this guy going to say next? That's all it is. And I really think that's a lot of his support is just coming from people who, oh, look at the train wreck. Let me stand here at a safe distance and watch it happen. So, yeah, absolutely a bully. And the New Yorker had a great article about, the art of losing the deal, because he has his panties in a twist because he's going to face off against ISIS and Putin and everything else, but he can't handle a female moderator. It's like, wow, you're such a pillar of courage, Mr. Trump, aren't you? You can't even handle one reporter. It's like, yeah, you're going to face off against everybody else. No, actually, you're going to tuck your tail behind your legs and go cry and, count your stack of money that daddy left you again. What an idiot. What a fool. What a chump. And I'm talking about the people who support Mr. Trump. He's not a fool. He's not an idiot. He's a bully. He's an incredible narcissist. And he's only doing it to feed his ego. That's all he ever does anything for. And anybody that supports this piece of crap is absolutely mindless to me. I mean, seriously. It's like, oh, we got to take care of all these immigrants. It's like, really? Is that why immigrants come here to do jobs that Americans won't do, just like being your wife? So have a good life, Mr. Trump. The sooner you depart, the better.
Wife? Are you talking about my wife? My wife is no immigrant. So.
He is such a piece of crap.
Lee, Todd, I think you said it best. People love to see a tragedy. People love to see, as you mentioned, a train wreck. And anytime there's a Republican, debate, and there's 75 candidates standing up there, and there's a kids table and there's an adults table, for the candidates that didn't make it, it's a sideshow. It's a sideshow, and this guy adds to the madness. And if he can't handle Megyn Kelly, how is he going to handle situations when he's in the Oval Office? He's just going to say, oh, I'm not going to deal with that? Oh, I'm just going to pass this on to someone else? Or, give me X amount of dollars? Or, come on. It's a joke. It's what's scary is we all thought this joke would have ended months ago.
Yep.
And it's getting scarier because it continues to just grow. It really does. So, I don't know. I think, truthfully, with Trump, as he picks up, we're going to start to see, over the next few weeks, as candidates start to fall to the wayside, this is a pathway for the Democrats to grab the White House once again.
Oh, yeah.
So
my hope
I'll leave it there.
My hope is that he wins the nomination, because I cannot wait for the first debate when this blowhard who knows nothing about governance goes up against Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton, people who have decades of experience.
Right.
Oh, my God. That is the sideshow I would love to see. Because he'll pout and he'll tell Bernie that, I don't know, he'll probably say something about how he's an old Jew and walk off the field. or he'll tell Hillary that it must be her time of the month. I mean, that's what he resorts to. He's Don Rickles, but without the warmth. It's like, he is, oh, my God. I just get pissed just thinking about this idiot. And it's all about him. So,
Did you watch any? Did anybody watch any of the debate at all?
No,
I did not.
I didn't.
Nor did I.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nor did I watch his little festival he had with Huckabee, to raise money for the veterans. So all the money went directly to the Donald Trump Foundation, which is like, oh, that's nice. Which he says and probably will be then dispersed to various veterans organizations, but why not just have it go to the veterans organizations to begin with instead of paying the extra administrative costs? It's like, yeah, whatever, dude.
Because then you lose the tax write-off. So.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it started. I just wanted to see a little bit of the opening, and so the first thing that happened was Ted Cruz got on there and he was like, you guys may have seen this, but basically, not word per word, but he basically said, oh yeah, I'm up here with all these fat, overweight, stupid people, and Carson, you're, I forgot whatever he said, and he was like, and now the Donald Trump portion is out of the way, so let's get on with the actual debate. So he actually said something kind of funny. I don't like Ted Cruz, but they talked to the elephant in the room was the question, basically. So it was, and it was,
nice.
It was, I don't know. The problem is, what do you guys think about that? I mean, Donald Trump obviously is, and yes, we're talking football and baseball, I promise. Just hold on for a little bit, people. But, is it a matter of Donald Trump is ahead of everyone because the rest of the candidates, honestly, are just, they're not worthwhile candidates? So is it just a matter of there's just not anybody out there with the personality or really the charisma to pull ahead of this guy? I mean, I agree. Like Ted said, that we thought this joke would be over a long time ago. And the scary part of it is if he does get the nomination, then he's got a 50-50 chance to beat whoever he beats. And it's just like, are you kidding me? What kind of country? I used to look at like some European countries. Oh, they elected this TV personality. Well, we never do that. And we might actually do that. And it's just, oh my gosh, I don't know what kind of country we've become, to be honest. But what do you guys think? Is it just because the rest of the candidates are not strong enough, not a very good field that the Republicans are putting forth?
Jump in, Ted, and then I'll follow.
It's Lee, as what you said before, it's a mess across the board for the GOP, and that's the reason why this sideshow is able to go on. Because if you had one candidate of substance, I mean, and this is going to kill me, but if you had Romney or someone that was up there that would dwarf Trump, this like I said, the sideshow would be done. It would be, okay, this is who we're going to nominate, and that's that. But it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and I agree. It's well, to me, it's half that they don't have any candidates of substance or presence. Because Trump has presence, unfortunately. That's part of it. The other part is that Trump, he's clever in that he's tapped into this sea of anger that has fueled the Tea Party and all the rest of it, and he's done a much better job of it than any of the other candidates. He's focused in on exactly what people will respond to, which is why whatever the percentage is, 35%, 38%, whatever, of Republicans that are going to, that are filling up polls and responding to it are supporting him. As far as the general election, he's not polling 40% of the Republican Party. I have no worries if he winds up being the nominee, because as time goes on, people are going to realize more and more, that 40% will realize more and more that there is nothing to him other than just a hot air balloon, and he'll lose that support even. I mean, it would be an incredible landslide. I mean, at this point, John Kerry could come back and run and win, because and nothing against Kerry personally, but I mean, he's not a magnetic personality as a candidate, as unfortunately we found out. No one wants to go have a beer with Donald Trump. He's not going to get that vote. His base is just too small, so I'm not worried about that. But yeah, you're right. Even if someone like Mitt Romney, for God's sakes, was running, I think this would be over. And I'm not saying that Richard Nixon was at all a good person, but can you imagine that politician running against someone like Trump, and how diced up he would be? Because the guy was smart and he knew his stuff, and he could out-Trump Trump. If they had a capable politician, notice I'm not saying statesman, but a capable politician, Trump would have been long gone, but they don't. Or maybe they have a few, and they're so out of touch with the insanity that the Republican Party has come, the vocal part of it, that they have no chance, and, they're relegated to the kiddie table. So, not that I like Rand Paul, but I don't like a lot of the things he says, but he's not clinically insane. And he's got no support.
Which says a lot,
in his
right?
own party. It does. It does say a lot, because his dad he was the darling of the party, just a couple election cycles ago. Not darling enough to win the nomination, because he didn't have enough money to outspend the oil brothers. But, wow, it's a fun circus while it's going on, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a scary circus. So, but let's move on and talk sports. Of course, Todd and I host the tennis scene, which will be on Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And of course, one thing we will definitely be talking about is how Serena lost today to Angelique Kerber of Germany, 28-year-old German. It's kind of interesting because Kerber, she's 28, but she started kind of late, which is unusual for tennis. So she's really like 24 as far as tennis age. So she could be good for several years, and she was strong the whole tournament. Definitely won over Serena. It wasn't a fluke, kind of like you could make the argument was in the U.S. Open last year when Serena lost in the semis. Kerber just beat her. Serena did make 46 unforced errors to Kerber's 13, so that was a big difference. But Kerber won in three sets, 6-4, 3-6, 6-4. So congratulations to Kerber. And Serena was very gracious in defeat. I mean, she was smiling. It wasn't like, I didn't play. I mean, she was admittedly so. Hey, this person just beat me. She was better than I was today. And so she was gracious. And that's one thing when Serena does lose. Most of the time she is gracious. So I think, everybody's – go ahead.
I was just going to say that. It's like, and I'm sure there have been times, but I can't recall a time when she's been anything less than gracious. When she loses. I mean, certainly, there she is. She's on the brink of a slam, and absolutely gracious in that loss. Is like how anybody can not like her is absolutely beyond me. And that's all. I mean, it's just she's always gives credit to the person who beat her. It's not like, I had an ingrown toenail 3 months ago and I couldn't play. I mean, you hear that from some people. They come up with anything they can. Tom Brady. But
I thought you were referring to me, actually.
super gracious in defeat, and hopefully she'll win the other three titles this year. That would be nice. But good for Kerber. And whether Steffi Graf gave her some hints or just gave her inspiration, we may not ever know. But like you said, it's pretty amazing that Kerber is like the ultimate late bloomer in tennis. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and Martina Hingis won in doubles, so she won another major, so good for her. And then tonight at 3:30, if anybody wants to stay up, I know I was talking to Chris Wassel a little bit earlier this morning, and he was actually up watching Australian rules football, for some reason, and I watched a little bit of the match. So anyway, of course, Djokovic and Murray play tonight, or wherever you are, as Todd and I joked around on the show last week. If it could be next week, depending on what time zone you're in, it feels like. But 3:30 a.m. Eastern time, Djokovic, who has never lost in the finals of the Australian, he's 5-0. This is his sixth final, obviously, against Andy Murray. Djokovic should win, but Serena lost, so we'll have to see. So let's talk about football, of course. Let's review the games last week before we, of course, talk to Pamela Michelle of Sports Infusion in just a couple of minutes and Tim Lynch of Mile High Report, which is SB Nation's Broncos site. Talk with him, and then at the top of the next hour, we'll talk with Chris Schafer of Fansided about the Panthers. But Broncos-Patriots. Obviously, the Broncos' defensive line was awful. Couldn't do anything against the Patriots' offensive line. And no sacks, didn't ever hit Brady. It was amazing that they won. So, Ted, what did you think about that game?
I think Tom Brady is the greatest player of our time. And we're going to be in awe when this guy retires. Wait, that's the wrong piece. Oh, I'm sorry. No.
That was the part I wrote before the game last week. Yeah, I wrote that before. Have to get this week.
Insert Peyton Manning's name in exactly what I just said. He's the greatest player that we've ever seen, and when he's gone, but it's kind of similar with those guys. I thought great game, enjoyed it. Thought the Broncos should have put the game, it should have been over by the third quarter. It wasn't. And just the fact of, Brady having the ball in his hands with 2 minutes to go, it was painful. It was painful to watch. But I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a great game. It was great for them. I just hope that wasn't their Super Bowl last Sunday, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, no.
Because you're going to have a whole heck of a lot more firepower for next week. But good job for the Broncos.
Todd?
Yeah, I was really impressed by the fact that, Von Miller had said that, okay, he gets rid of the ball in 2 seconds, I'll be there in 1 second. I was impressed by the fact that he basically, and the rest of the team, backed that up. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, man alive, Brady was on his back more than, I don't know, next wife. Yeah, it's like, holy cow, that was just unbelievable. And I was very happy to see that because, being a Dolphins fan, I'm not particularly thrilled with the Patriots. Brady himself I like, and I respect the work Belichick has done when he's not reviewing tapes of other teams' practices. I respect the work he does. The thing that it pointed out to me is Brady is an amazingly great player. He's an amazingly great player. But to me, the MVP of that team is Gronkowski. If they hadn't had Gronkowski in that game, what do they get? A field goal? I mean, man alive, that guy is he is unstoppable. And he was in that game. And frighteningly, I cannot speak and say that word, he almost put that into overtime. Luckily, they didn't convert on the 2-point conversion, but yeah, it's just because the few times Brady did get time, Gronkowski, I mean, he got the ball. Amendola did a few things, Edelman, but basically Gronkowski was the only person who did anything for them. So I would sure love to have him on my team, but regardless, it's like, when is this guy a free agent? Well, can't he go someplace else? If you're not going to come to the Dolphins, go someplace else. It's like maybe he can go to Denver and disappear as a free agent tight end, or go to Seattle and catch 20 balls for the season. But that's never going to happen with him, obviously. But man, I can't wait until he's out of that division, please. Or just, I don't know, get a hoverboard dealership and retire. Do something, dude. You're killing me. You are killing me.
Well, just in defense of Jimmy Graham, he actually was playing better as the season was going on. And you guys are both missing the point. The best Patriots offensive player last week was Ronnie Hillman. I mean, it was, he set them up for their touchdown. I don't know how you can forget about Ronnie Hillman.
That is true.
He did. Man.
So Carolina and it was funny because when I was writing the outline and sending it to you guys, I was thinking, the Panthers, and for a second I honestly could not remember who they played. I was like, they played? Honestly, don't know who it was. They didn't play.
For good reason.
Yeah, exactly. As they said, what was the problem? They're talking about on 710 ESPN Seattle. They said, what was the problem in the Carolina-Arizona game? And Brock Heward, who's he's basically tells how it is. I mean, a really good person, but he said, the game turned when Arizona got off the plane. That was pretty much it. Yeah, because it was over. Man, and honestly, watching the Panthers, of course, 31-0 at halftime against the Seahawks, and then just totally destroying the Cardinals. I don't see how the Broncos a great defense, and you just never know, because if you have a great defense, things can happen. But I mean, Cam just brings up that whole different element of Brady. Yeah, he ran that one time, but if you have to have a linebacker, whether it be Davis or Kuechly, keeping an eye on Cam. That hurts the defense, and the Panthers can hurt you in so many ways, especially even defensively they can score. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about the Panthers and whoever they played last week game?
I think because last week we talked about it, it's like, okay, is there some concern because the Panthers in the last few weeks of the regular season, they'd build up these big leads like they did against the Giants, and it was like, and just like your Seahawks did to them, they came back and made it. I think they realized, okay, we can't take our foot off the pedal, and they didn't. Obviously, they're going to play all out in the Super Bowl, just like they did against the Cardinals. Of course, overall, I think they're facing a better team. I mean, I'm not knocking Carson Palmer, and I'm not saying Peyton Manning is the Peyton Manning of a couple of years ago, let alone 10 years ago, but they're facing a better defense, and they're facing a better quarterback. And weird things happen in the Super Bowl anyway. I mean, the thing about this game is no one would be surprised if the Panthers win 45-10. Everyone would be shocked if the Broncos did it. The Broncos, you're thinking, okay, if they win, maybe they'll win by 2 points or something, just because they don't have the offensive firepower. I mean, all season long they haven't. So, I just hope it's a really fun game. I hope Peyton plays well. But, yeah, it's hard to see how they can match up, because even if they just have a lot of weapons. I mean, it doesn't seem like that, but Cam makes those wide receivers into bigger weapons than you would think they would be. They don't have Kelvin Benjamin, but it hasn't mattered obviously since they led the league in scoring. So we'll see what they do. But jump in, Ted.
Todd, could you imagine if the Panthers did have Kelvin Benjamin this year? I mean, it would just be downright disrespectful. Because if they already scored, how many points did they score this season? I mean,
2005.
Right, and that's without their basically their number one receiver, who's going to get 1,300 yards and a bazillion touchdowns and highlight reels and everything else like that. As I said before, with the Cardinals, their Super Bowl or the climax of their season was that game against Green Bay, and totally outmatched. They were totally outmatched, and I think you were correct in saying the Panthers, they did answer almost every question because they finished the deal. They just didn't throw up, 40 points and then say, hey, we're going to take a foot off the gas pedal for the second half, as we saw several times over, this past season. I hate to say, as you could see, it's the changing of the guard, because all you hear about is, and this is lead up to Super Bowl week, all you hear about is Cam. You're not really hearing too much about Manning because the guard has changed, the narrative has changed, and unless Manning dials it back and becomes the 2005 Manning, or what you guys told me, hey, the Manning of a couple seasons ago with, 95 touchdowns, this is going to be a blowout.
Yeah, and next week, of course, we're going to talk this game, Super Bowl, over with Antoine Staley. Again, he'll be on. Sharona will be on, and Danny Kelly of Field Goals, who also does some stuff for SB Nation. But at this point, let's begin our interview part of the program, and we're going to start with Pamela Michelle. We now welcome Pamela Michelle to the program. Pamela can be read at thebestmensmagblog.com, NFLfemale.com, theinscribermag.com, and can be heard on Sports Infusion on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. and lots of other places. So, Pamela, thanks for being on the show today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Before we get to the Super Bowl matchup, of course, that's what we're mainly going to talk about. There's a lot going on in football. First, what's your take on the Al Jazeera HGH report? I mean, several players have been mentioned, including, of course, Peyton Manning. Do you think that's accurate and truthful?
It's an interesting source for it to come from. I actually don't think Peyton Manning is going to be in trouble. I think it might be something that they will try to get as much dirt on as they can, but it does appear he's covered his bases a little bit more due to the fact that he's kind of saying that if HGH has been ever present in his house, it's for his wife. And it's more for her personal medical issues, which no one has the right to know. I actually think Ryan Zimmerman and Ryan Hard are in a little bit more trouble as far as Major League Baseball goes instead of Peyton Manning, just because this is definitely something that baseball is going to investigate and takes a lot more into consideration and more seriously than the NFL does.
Do you think it's just a kind of follow-up on, do you think it's kind of, well, what do you think of the situation the NFL decided not to go in with MLB and the Anti-Doping Association and on that investigation? They're doing their own investigation.
I think it's weird what the NFL picks and chooses. It's so strange to me that it's almost as if they want to just take this and just kind of get it under the rug, and so the MLB is going to definitely make this a little bit more forefront and kind of put it out there, exposing it, where the NFL just, almost because I feel like it's Peyton Manning, they want to pretend like it doesn't exist. And by the time, if they ever find anything out, Peyton is going to, this is pretty much his last hurrah. Anything that ever comes out would be after his career is over. I just think it's strange how the NFL handles things as opposed to Major League Baseball, because what they're picking and choosing to go after, I mean, they made deflated footballs an issue for a better portion of a year. And it almost seemed as if that was the biggest catastrophe in the NFL, never mind anyone being associated with this doping scandal.
And, of course, speaking of injuries, the other big issue in the NFL right now is CTE and just how safe the game is. I mean, just lately, Tyler Sash, he's the 21st confirmed person who had CTE after an autopsy. Do you think the NFL, are they intentionally being slow in making the game safer, or are they currently handling concussion symptoms correctly?
I do think that they are taking it a little bit more slow. I think with the way things can have a speed-up process nowadays, that there are quite a few things that they could do in order to make the game safe. But I also think if they brought this to the forefront where they're proving more and more that CTE actually is something that is going to threaten the longevity and livelihood of their players, obviously it's going to kind of put a little bit more fear into people wanting to get involved in the sport, and it could have a long-term impact on people actually watching it. I mean, it could work out in their benefit where people feel that, wow, it's more dangerous, so there's more risk. It might actually boost ratings, but I think that it's going to also deter parents from saying, okay, well, I just don't want my son even playing football. I don't want them playing Pop Warner. I don't want them playing Pee Wee football. I don't even know if I want my son playing football at the high school level. I mean, it could impact it in that way where they might not even have a decent product to put on the field if they kind of take that, all right, we're going to be far too cautious route.
Again, we're talking with Pamela Michelle of many places, Sports Infusion. So, the Panthers had 8 double-digit wins in the regular season, moving on to the Super Bowl, of course, plus their blowout of the Cardinals. They led the league in scoring as well, 31.3 points per game. The Broncos had just 3 double-digit wins and scoring just 22.2 points per game. What is it that makes the Panthers so good, in your opinion?
I think that they finally have come into their comfort zone. It was strange to me because people disregarded the Panthers a little bit more and knocked them down quite a few pegs when Kelvin Benjamin went down at the beginning of the season. And it almost as if it was people went into panic mode. They were like, oh, my God, Kelvin Benjamin's going to go down. Now who's Cam going to throw to now? And what are they going to do now that there's no Kelvin Benjamin? And I found it to be a little bit curious just because they were putting so much on the shoulders of Benjamin. And don't get me wrong, I think that he is so talented and a fantastic receiver. But at the same time, I think that people disregarded the fact that their defense is healthy. It's playing like it's supposed to. Cam Newton has come into his own, and his maturity level has far exceeded the past couple of years, where now you see him more in kind of a motivating type of role where when things didn't go his way before, he would just kind of distance himself and you'd see him pouting in certain situations. You don't really see that Cam anymore. You see somebody more confident who is taking the responsibility of being a team leader.
Yeah, excellent point. Because, before we'd see him with a towel and it's like, Cam's unhappy, and it doesn't seem to be so much that way this year, definitely. Of course, when you're 15-1 going into the playoffs, that kind of helps your image as well. But
it's easy to have a good attitude when you're winning.
That's right. So obviously the key to the Broncos offense starts with the quarterback, Peyton Manning. He did just enough, really, against the Steelers and the Patriots in the first quarter, especially, to win. But, do you think he can have that same performance level against the Panthers? Will that be enough? And do you think the Broncos can be more...
That is not going to be enough. It's definitely... It's not going to be enough at all.
Gotcha.
He was great. Well, I shouldn't say great. He was good for Peyton in the first half. I mean, hell, he threw 2 more touchdowns in that postseason game than he did the whole friggin' season. I mean, he was on fire if you ask anybody else at that point. And it's just like, and in the second half, it just was less than okay. I mean, there were a lot of 3 and outs. He really wasn't performing up to the way he did in the first half. It's almost as if he ran out of steam. That's the way it kind of looked. And that is definitely not going to be enough. If he had a hard time in the second half against that Patriots defense, who actually did play well. I mean, They played well. Collins and Hightower especially played well. And I think he's going to have a harder time with the Panthers. The good thing for him, well, I should say, the Broncos, is that the Panthers seem to not be as well on their defense in the second half, where they have the potential of blowing almost a 30-point lead. So I guess maybe that might balance itself out, but he's going to have to dig down really deep. He's going to have to reach down, and if that truly is his last game, he's going to have to play it as if it's his last game. He's going to have to, find Superman pills or something. He's going to have to borrow something from Cam, maybe, because I don't see it happening. My heart wants that to happen for him. The romantic in me wants that kind of fairy tale ending for the last game, sort of like an Elway type of deal. But with the way the Panthers are, I just don't see it going on.
Yeah, and the other coin flip of that, of course, is, he needs to have some run support, and he didn't have that. As you pointed out, Collins had a huge game against the Broncos. Do you think the Broncos, first of all, can they, and secondly, how can they be more effective running against the Panthers than they were against the Patriots?
They're really going to have to find a way. I mean, C.J. Anderson has to find a way. They can't rely on Ronnie Hillman to even try to have a decent game. They need to have C.J. Anderson get into that form of being hard to take down. I mean, he needs to get back into that kind of postseason. he really didn't have a fantastic postseason. He needs to almost get back into that last year regular season kind of run, and maybe he needs to watch old tapes of himself to see exactly where he's been lacking this season, because I don't know if people just are kind of keying a little bit more on him to try to stop him, but he needs to kind of get into bulldozer mode. It has to happen. He's big enough to do that.
And, of course, he's going to have to do that against, obviously, the Panthers' defense. Both the defenses are really great, though. Denver's pass defense allowed a passer rating of 78.8. Carolina was 73.5. Denver's rushing defense, a little bit better, 83.6 yards a game. Carolina, 88.4. They both had about 24, 25 forced fumbles. Denver gets more sacks. Carolina gets more interceptions. So, I mean, they're really, really close. But do you think one is better, definitively better than the other?
I think that Carolina is better than the other just because I think you can count more consistently on Thomas and Kuechly to have better games more times than not. I think that even though Ward is been playing out of his head lately, I don't see a lot of the same consistency with Von Miller, who technically has a tendency to sometimes fade and disappear a little bit. I think that if they can repeat next week in the Super Bowl what they did against New England, they're going to give their team a lot better of a chance. But again, I think a lot of this X factor, and I hate to, say this because I know this is what the popular opinion is going to be, is Cam Newton. And the reason why I say this is because it's not just the athleticism or the ability of what Cam is able to do. Cam can take the hits, but not only that, Cam can dish them out, and he's not afraid to do it. He's young, and he's not afraid to put his body on the line and give some of those hits either, and that's a big guy. That's a big guy that's going to deliver those hits to you, too. So I think that that's something that they're not really used to handling either. There's going to have to be a whole different game preparation for Cam Newton.
I would think so, and I appreciate the love for Mr. Kuechly, who I always draft like second or third in fantasy leagues that allow single defensive players. Moving on to the offensive side, the tight end Greg Olsen, he's not that far off from Gronkowski in terms of production and talent. No. Gronk still got his yards against the Broncos, so what kind of an impact do you think Olsen will have in the Super Bowl?
He definitely is Cam's go-to guy. He is. I mean, that didn't surprise me that when Benjamin went down, when I was drafting for fantasy football when Benjamin went down, I was in a couple of leagues where Greg Olsen was still hanging around in like the 7th or 8th round, and I'm just like, I looked and like, that has to be a mistake. How the hell is he still there? And I had to get him because I knew that he was going to be, somebody that Cam definitely leaned on. I think that sometimes his ability is a little bit underrated because he's not mentioned in the same breath as Gronk, or even, they had Jimmy Graham, but now Jimmy Graham is kind of, an after fact in Seattle. I think that kind of hurt his fantasy football value by going to a place where there's more of a running game as opposed to a passing game. But Greg Olsen seems to always have been Mr. Reliable anyway, and he's been Mr. Reliable and more this year.
Yeah, and flipping to the other side, Owen Daniels had a really good first quarter, at least against the Patriots, and he could be key too, because if you take away the wideouts, kind of like the Patriots did with the Broncos, that can possibly open up the middle. I think we may all be on the same page. Just gathering from what you're saying, I don't think there's any way the Broncos win this game. I'd love Peyton Manning to win that last game, but I don't think there's any way. I just think it's a bad matchup all the way around. I think it could get really ugly. But do you think that Owen Daniels may be able to find some holes in the Panthers' zone defense as he did against the Patriots?
I think it's possible. The question is how far downfield will he be able to get, and will Peyton Manning be able to connect with him? Because
he has to, at this point, they play like they did last game. Obviously, Daniels had those two big catches, but after that, as you pointed out already, they didn't do a whole lot. So, and one of the guys besides Kuechly who seems to cover the entire field, the only guy he can't cover is Julio Jones, but who can?
Yeah.
Thomas Davis, another great linebacker, says he'll play even though he broke his forearm in the last game. What impact do you think his injury will have on the game, if any?
He's going to have a little bit of time for it to heal up. I didn't really know exactly how severe the injury was. If he feels that he's able to go, I think that you can never underestimate the power of adrenaline or the ability for somebody to want something. And when these players go out on the field, they're competitive, and they want to be there. They want to win that Super Bowl ring. They want to win it for themselves. They want to win it for their team. I don't think you can ever underestimate how much somebody can put the injury or pain in the back of their mind just to get through what they want.
Yeah, Denver's D-line proved they're fast enough to put a beating on Brady. They got to him about 83 times in that game. But as you said, Cam Newton's a completely different animal, and he deals out as much punishment as he takes.
Yeah.
Do you think what scheme are they going to have to use? Are they going to use a linebacker to spy on him, or what can Denver do to try to contain this guy?
They're going to have to try to figure out something. I think a spy might be their best option. Again, he's a new class of what the NFL is going to be, I think. And unlike Russell Wilson, who is mobile, but he is such small stature, Cam Newton is a wall. I mean, he is just a big beast of a guy. And like I said, he gives the punishment out as well as taking it. And he's not afraid to be the team's leading rusher. He's not afraid to say, okay, there's nothing open. I'm going to get that. I'm going to get, as many yards as I can, and good luck to them trying to take me down. It's definitely reckless. And, I'm sure that it kind of isn't a gamble Riverboat Ron wants to take. But at the same time, when you have an athlete who's capable of doing it, sometimes you do just have to let him do what he feels is right and go for it, even though injury is definitely a higher risk for him.
Right. Now, I am contractually obligated. If I don't ask these questions, Lee will not pay me for this week. I know what the answers are, but I have to ask. Who's going to win the game and who's the MVP?
I am going to say that Carolina is going to win the game, and Cam Newton is going to be the MVP of the game, like he's going to be the MVP of the NFL this season.
I am shocked.
I know. It's shocking, isn't it? I should go out on a limb and say, you know what? The Peyton last ride, Peyton Manning is going to play out of his mind, and he's going to be the MVP of the game, and Denver's going to win. And then everybody's going to be like, wow, that's such a departure.
Well, here's my take on it is they knew they had just enough to get by the whole season, and then they're just going to let Peyton loose, and he's going to have 450 total yards or running, because we saw him run last game, and he's going to have like 6 touchdowns. We'll be like, oh, this is a Peyton Manning. No, it's not. That's not. But Pamela, it's been fantastic. First of all, finally meeting you. But thanks for being on, and will you let people know where you can be found on the interwebs?
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. It was a blast, and I really appreciate it. You can find me on Twitter at SportyDiva, and, of course, every Wednesday night on Blog Talk Radio doing Sports Infusion with Andrew Fishbane at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Insider Media Network.
Well, Pamela was, as expected, fantastic, but I think maybe at this point let's turn a little bit more to team-centric interviews. And now we welcome Tim Lynch to the show. Tim writes for MileHighReport.com and can be found on Twitter at TimLynch1978. Tim, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, no problem.
So Eli Manning has said Peyton doesn't need another ring to validate his career. If Peyton does lead the Broncos to the title, do you think Peyton should be considered the best quarterback of all time, or do you think he's already the best quarterback of all time and Super Bowls, championships don't really come into play?
Well, that's a tough question because it's always subjective. As much as I dislike the Patriots, it's hard to argue against Tom Brady. He's been to 6 Super Bowls or something. So, that's always a great achievement, and Brady has the wins and the regular season stats. And I always want to put John Elway up there, being a Broncos fan. But I think as far as Peyton Manning's legacy goes, I don't think there's going to be any doubt or question that his name will always be in the conversation when you mention the greatest quarterback of all time, regardless of the outcome of the Super Bowl here.
Hey, Tim, this is Todd. Sticking with Peyton, is there any chance that they bring him back, assuming he wants another year? And if not, are you confident that Brock Osweiler is the quarterback of the future for the team?
I love that Manning and Elway are all, talking about staying in the moment because it's hard to see any kind of eventual outcome where Manning is with the Broncos beyond this season. I think the Broncos liked what they saw with Osweiler, but he's a young quarterback, and it's pretty difficult for a young guy to come in mid-season and have any kind of long-term success. So bringing Peyton Manning back for the playoffs was the right move, and this is his last rodeo with the Broncos, at least, I think. But there's no question that most Bronco fans are very grateful for everything that Manning's done in his 4 years here.
Yeah, personally, both Lee and I lived in Tennessee. Well, Lee still lives in Tennessee, and big Peyton fans. Hopefully, we both hope that win or lose, he says, okay, I've had enough injuries, I'm done. So hopefully this is it regardless. Owen Daniels, he came up really big against the Patriots. He's been important all year long. They have another tight end, though, or at least they seem to. Why has Vernon Davis been the invisible man since coming to Denver from San Francisco?
That's a good question. I actually live out here in California, so I know a lot of 49ers fans, and they know Vernon Davis very well. And he tends to have a little trepidation going over the middle when it comes to his getting hit low. So I think a big part of him disappearing came in a couple of the losses down the stretch where he had a couple of critical drops when the game was on the line, and when you can't make the play when the game's on the line like that, you don't see the field as much after that. So they're trying to get him back in the mix. They tried in the last game. So we'll just have to see what happens in the Super Bowl.
Hey, Tim, how you doing? This is Ted from New York. Well, as we stated before, happy to have you on the show. My question is, there seems to have been more drop passes and missed routes than usual in the postseason. Do you think the timing is off because Peyton's delivery lacks some speed, or is there something else going on?
It's tough to tell. I know in the Steelers game it was a huge problem. I think if they hadn't had those, I've seen the number 5, I've seen the number 7, I've seen the number 9 in terms of drops. I don't know exactly how many would actually be counted as drops, but there were a lot. And I think if Manning had, connected on those, his stat line would have been pretty impressive. He would have been over 300 yards and had a great first game in the playoffs there. But I know it was a point of emphasis before the AFC Championship game, and I can only think of one drop against the Patriots. So it looks like something that they've really worked on and really focused on, and hopefully we don't see any of that in the Super Bowl.
Gotcha. Again, we're talking with Tim Lynch from MileHighReport.com. Tim, my follow-up question is, the running game struggled against the Patriots. The Panthers' defense is even better than the Patriots. What can Denver do differently in this game to not become one-dimensional?
Yeah, that's a good question. It just comes down to the offensive line for the Broncos. Those guys up front, it's impossible to know what they're going to do every week. It's very frustrating. So, if they execute and they block their assignments, the Broncos can run the ball really well. So, I can't remember, but I think the Broncos still topped 100 yards rushing. I'll have to double check, but against the Patriots. Either way, if Manning's going to have any success in this game, he's got to be able to have a pretty good running game against, like you said, one of the league's best run defenses. So if there's one thing on offense that I would say is the most important aspect of the game coming up is the running the ball. So if they can run the ball effectively, that's going to open things up for Manning and that Broncos offense.
Yeah, and again, thanks for being on. I think the Broncos ended up with 99 yards rushing. I think they missed 100 by 1 yard if I remember seeing the final stats. So they could have changed though, but sometimes I review the game and it's like, oh, we'll add a yard. But yeah, Cam Newton is almost certainly the most physically gifted quarterback the Broncos defensive line has faced. But he was sacked 33 times in the regular season, and actually a higher rate than the supposedly immobile Peyton Manning, who had the big run last game. Of course, it was kind of strange. But still, Newton is really much more mobile than any of the quarterbacks the Broncos have played. What do you think they should do, the Broncos, to contain Newton?
I thought about that too after the Broncos won on Sunday, and I thought back to the game against the Packers after the bye week. Aaron Rodgers, they know him as a prolific passer, but he's also pretty dangerous out of the backfield. He doesn't run the read option and do the kinds of things that Cam does, because really very few quarterbacks do. But I think if the Broncos want to contain and corral Cam, keep him in the pocket, and then collapse the pocket on top of him, then I think what they did against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers is a good way to do that. Whether or not they can do it is a big question, because I know the Panthers run a little different protection scheme when it comes to just how they pass block. So that's up to Wade Phillips, see what he can pull out of his hat, and we'll have to see how the Broncos defense rises to the occasion.
Hey Tim, this is Todd again, and we're talking about what each team can do to the other. What do you see the Broncos having their biggest advantages in this game?
Their biggest advantage is their defense. It's if they're gonna be in this game late, it's gonna come down to a big game from the defense. They got to shut down Cam Newton. It's number one scoring offense. I keep thinking back to the 2013 season when the Broncos, tore across the season, scored 600 points, and then just were absolutely stonewalled in the Super Bowl by the Seahawks. So, I'm hoping it repeats itself, but you just never know.
I'm surprised Lee didn't give out a cheer when you mentioned the Seahawks stonewalling against the Broncos. Of course, they took what the Patriots gave them early in the AFC Championship game. Patriots adjusted. Denver wasn't really able to do much offensively after that, and relied on the defense to win. And it's like you said, that of course they're key. How do you see the Broncos winning against the Panthers? How can they pull this off?
Yeah, and I think somebody told me after the game that the Broncos offense went into prevent mode. So a little opposite from, the prevent defense. We got the prevent offense.
Right.
But, they were protecting the lead. So Manning and that offense went ultra conservative and just tried to chew up the clock. And, it's a dangerous game to play, but when you got the defense playing like it was against Tom Brady, it really paid off. I don't really want to see that in the Super Bowl because crazy things tend to happen in the biggest game of the year. So I'd like to see the Broncos offense keep doing what they're doing if they find success early and not, try to go ultra conservative and just have their drive stall out, 6 or 7 times in a row. That would be very, very stressful for us Bronco fans.
Right.
Hey, Tim, this is Ted again. I have to ask you the money question of I would say the night, but it's actually daytime. Of course, who wins and who's the MVP?
I'm going to go with the Broncos just because I got to believe. That's just, that's the way I am. It's obviously going to be an incredible win if they do, because the Panthers are a really good football team in all phases. And if they do win, I guess Peyton Manning. If the Broncos win, he's going to have to do something. And if he does something, even if it's not much, you got to believe that the sentimental favorite to get the MVP would be Manning at that point. So we'll go with that prediction.
Well, Tim, we definitely want to thank you for joining us. And the other big question we have for you is, where can you be found on the interwebs, social media, and the like?
I'm on milehighreport.com. So I post there almost daily. So have a good one.
And again, we want to thank Pamela, Michelle, and Tim for being on. It's always good to get other takes because we just kind of seem to ramble on, to be honest. So, before we're joined by Chris Schafer of Fansided to talk Panthers, any thoughts on Pamela, Michelle's comments or Tim Lynch's comments, Todd?
Seemed to ramble on. I thought we were going to talk about movies now for the next 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Other than that, they were excellent and added some depth and much-needed intelligence to the three of us. No, I don't think there were any surprises, but thank God for them because that made the show worthwhile after the first half hour of god-awfulness, which is us.
What about you, Ted?
We're not talking about the Oscars, or was that last week's show?
We talked. We had enough. We had enough of that talk. Boycotting the rest of the talk about
Ted.
Boycotting the rest of the show since we're not talking.
The new hashtag is Black Oscars Matter.
Oh, I think the conversation was dead on. Always learn something new from Pamela and Michelle, and that's really it. I thought they were both two interviews that really went well. I mean, I know you guys shut me out of the first one, but it's okay.
Ted, it was contract negotiation time. We had to do what we had to do.
We were like, where's Ted's in the bathroom? Somebody take his questions. I mean, I don't know. It's boycotting.
I also learned that I sound like a hamster on speed, so from now on I'm using my announcer voice.
I want to apologize because I was supposed to be in on the Pamela Michelle interview, but that was the morning I ate that burrito. And it just...
You mean this morning, because that was a live interview, obviously.
Of course. Hybrid.
So, this is a hybrid show. This is the only way to describe this show. But we're hoping to be joined by Chris Schafer in just a few minutes. He had a meeting at 10:30, so hopefully he hopefully did not run over and is hopefully able to join us. But besides that, again, next week we'll be right back on at 10 a.m. Saturday morning, and we'll be discussing the Super Bowl with Danny Kelly and Antoine Staley and Sharona, who have each been on lately. So it'll be interesting because last year we had a Super Bowl show and it was Patriots and Seahawks, and so the game was bad for me, at least a lot of intensity. But actually, at this point, we do now welcome Chris Schafer to the show. Chris writes about the Panthers for Fansided and can be found on Twitter at Chris Schafer. So Chris Schafer without the R, 1. Chris Schafer 1. So Chris, thanks for being on the show. How are you this morning?
Good. How are you? Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get into football, I'm also a Tar Heels fan, so the guys are going to have to put up with a couple of questions about the Tar Heels, if that's okay. So UNC academic scandal has been dragging on, it seems. Any idea when the NCAA will actually come out with their findings, and how bad do you think it actually may hurt Tar Heel sports?
Well, I thought we were talking about Panthers. Come on, what do we got to pull in my heels about? Come on, that's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair at all.
No, I don't want anything to be found out, to be honest. I'm also a Tar Heels fan, so it's just feel like I'm in agony waiting for them to announce something. By this point, it feels like it's gone on for years.
Well, I'm not going to give an opinion on that. I was there when it was going on, and I know too much. Let's just put it like that.
Okay, well that's fair. That's fair enough, definitely. Okay, well I'll ask just one more Tar Heels question, if that's okay. Non-academic scandal question.
All right.
Williams really good last year, but a lot of people thought, including me, possibly, that maybe he was the second best quarterback on the roster, because when Trubisky came in, 40 or 47 passes, 555 yards, 6 touchdowns. There's good hope for next year, right?
Well, shoot, I in all honesty, this past season was really, I think, the first time that it's been, let's just say, good since Pepper was there. And really, I mean, just seeing the results this year, I don't want to jump the gun on anything, Don't want to say, hey, this was a fluke season and next year is going to be what everybody's seen for the past, 10, 12 years. I'd like to think it turns into something that can build and grow, but, I don't want to call it a fluke, and I just don't like jinxing people. When I was in school, that was when Peppers was there, and when we went to the Peach Bowl, and that was the year we beat Florida State. I remember taking down the goalpost. I still have a flag from the top of the goalpost. So,
nice.
I haven't come to expect much from the from any of that side. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's like, oh, well, I wasn't expecting anything.
That's right. It's almost basketball season, so let's go with that.
Exactly. That pretty much got to the point of when does Midnight Madness happen?
Exactly.
Oh, this is amazing. A college football fan with reasonable expectations. There must be 3 of you in the whole country. Chris, this is Todd, and we'll move on to talk about the big game because we can't say Super Bowl because we haven't paid the licensing fee. It's like, there's $50,000, Lee. Sorry. Anyway, going on to the Super Bowl, in the Panthers' only loss, Atlanta was able to dominate time of possession, large part due to the absence of Jonathan Stewart. Of course, there's all the focus basically is on Cam, a lot on Josh Norman, Luke Kuechly. Has Stewart been overlooked by fans in general?
Oh, my gosh, hugely. Look at the opening play of the Seattle game. What was it, 59-yard touchdown or run, and then he backed it up a couple plays later, and 2 touchdowns within the first quarter and 45 seconds or whatever it was. I mean, he's really stepped up this year, and it's been one of those things where, I mean, him and D'Angelo splitting, I'm not going to take anything away from D'Angelo, great back. But, when you have that 2-headed monster and one of them leaves, it really gives the opportunity for the other one to take advantage, grab it, and take that opportunity and really just excel. And, I mean, Jonathan's done that this year.
Of course, and it hasn't been good for his stats, obviously, but do you think overall it helped his career because obviously he had a much lighter workload all the years that D'Angelo was there. Has it really been good for Stewart?
I mean, it's definitely taken a lot of hits off his body by sharing the workload. I mean, what's the average lifespan of a NFL running back? What is it, under 3 years?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can be splitting duty with somebody, that's going to really help a lot. And I think it was it last year? I think it was before the season, last May maybe, or October. I don't remember. But Jonathan actually told me, hey, he had changed his workout routine in the off season to started doing yoga, and that really helped him with flexibility, and I mean taking a lot of pressure off your legs by all means too.
Oh, very cool. And of course, he's splitting the load now with Cam. And Cam, of course, he deserves all the attention he gets, of course. How much do you think his improvement this season is due to Mike Shula's coaching? How much is just simply Cam doing the work and growing into the role?
Well, the one thing I think that we need to go back to, though, with Stu, though, and which leads to the Cam and that Atlanta game is that, I mean, they weren't ready for that Atlanta game. That was a very interesting week, to say the least. I mean, it was the Christmas week, so the practice schedule was messed up with the holiday. They had one scheduled practice. They practiced one time, and that one time was in a ballroom in the NASCAR Hall of Fame Convention Center. And Cam left that practice early because of the birth of his son. So you're talking, I mean, not being able to play a game plan, instituting a game plan, plus your star quarterback goes and becomes a dad. I mean, how much can you say that, the Panthers looked bad in that game when you really didn't have a chance to prepare? So yes, Stewart was a major loss in that game, but still, I mean, if you don't have time to really prepare for the team that's coming up, you really don't know what you're going to get on a Sunday.
Right.
Hey, Chris, this is Ted. Welcome to the show. Glad to have
Thank you.
on. And I have the question, one of the burning questions of the week, and it's surrounding Cam Newton. And it revolves around that Cam states, many people have said all the hate is because he's too black. Cam himself has said, I'm an African-American quarterback that may scare a lot of people. Meanwhile, Russell Wilson was criticized in some circles as acting too white, which Richard Sherman refuted as ridiculous. What's your view on this concept, and why can't people just have personalities and be people?
Well, I mean, a lot of it goes back to if you're talking in relation to Cam, nobody's really, what's the best word to say? Nobody's really accepted how good Cam is, I guess would be the best way, because it seems like he's had a black cloud over him since he's been in college. You have the whole scandal at Florida with the laptop computer, and then everything in relation to his father, and, it just seems as if that followed him to the NFL, and then in his first few years, it was the thing where all he does is sits on the sidelines and pouts and throws a towel over his head, and doesn't interact with his teammates. But it's one of those things when if somebody's different and they can excel, people don't like that. And Cam is a perfect example. He's being different. He's being himself. There's not been a quarterback who is on the sidelines and goes back and forth up and down the sidelines and cheering on the fans and, gets the crowd pumped up. It's one of those things where people are afraid of that. They just kind of they don't know how to accept it. And a lot of times, hey, can you hold on 1 second? I just got a text from somebody about something.
No problem.
It's about Super Bowl. Interesting. Okay.
Imagine that.
Yeah, really. And, one of those things that happens is that people don't realize what Cam actually does. How many people know that the week of the Dallas game, that's a Thursday game, that earlier in the week he was feeding 400 kids and at his charity event, and then went and flew out the next day. They don't see what he does off the field. He did a huge kickball tournament in the summer for his foundation. So Cam has such an impact that people don't see, and all they see is him being Cam on the sidelines, and they don't like that because they don't know what to expect.
That's a fair answer. We talked about Kuechly earlier, but he missed a few games early on, but it appeared as if the defense didn't, skip a beat. His numbers have dropped significantly this season. Has he slowed a bit, or is it because his teammates have improved so much that he doesn't need to make every play?
I don't think you can ever say Luke slows. How many games did he miss? And he was still the Panthers' leading tackler. Plus look at Thomas Davis's play this year. How much has he stepped up? So, Luke also, though, his game plan has changed. Do you honestly think 2 years ago that he'd be covering the receiver downfield and that he'd break up a pass play, where 2 years ago he wouldn't have had that speed or knowledge to break that up downfield? He's worked on those little things where he has improved in other aspects of the game, and not just going from sideline to sideline and being pure tackler and compiling over 120 tackles a year combined.
Yeah, Kuechly obviously is a beast, and Peyton Manning used to be, but no longer is he. He's been injured so much, and after facing Russell Wilson 2 weeks ago and then Carson Palmer last week, the Broncos' offense seems to be less, what's the word for it, less of a threat almost than the Seahawks or Cardinals. Do you think the Panthers need to do anything differently defensively just because it's Peyton, or do you just think they'll play the same base defense that they play, and they don't fear this offense possibly as much as maybe the last two teams they faced?
I think that they're not fearing, saying they're not going to not fear Peyton Manning. How can you not fear Peyton Manning? Peyton's arm might not have the strength and velocity that he once had, but where he comes up with the intangibles is that he's such a good offensive mind, and he can really adjust to whatever aspect the defense throws at him, whether it's moving to the running game, doing the short dink passes. Peyton's dangerous no matter where or when you put him. He could go out for all we know and have a huge game. I mean, how many people thought that Owen Daniels would have been the man that he hooked up with twice last week? So Peyton finds a way in more aspects than one to make plays and to do what he needs to do to help his team win. So to say that, the offense is somebody they fear less, I don't see that. I think you kind of got to keep it even keel across the entire board and realize, hey, this is one of the best, if not the best quarterback of all time we're facing. And yeah, he might be 39 years old, but he's just as much of a threat as he was 5 years ago.
True enough. This is Todd again, and another player on the Panthers, Ted Ginn Jr. He's been an enigma his entire career, and as a Dolphins fan, I can testify he is a hell of an enigma. Of course, he had 10 TDs this season. He can still disappear for entire games. What's your gut feeling? Is he going to have a big game?
Well, as long as he brings Stickum, then yeah, he'll do all right. I don't think his knee injury has anything to do or will affect him at all. If you look at last week's game, I don't remember what part of the game it was, but when he took that one punt return and all of a sudden he hit the 30-yard line, and my God, it looked like he had a rocket up his butt. He just burst out in speed, and it was the speed that you really had not seen, if at all, this year at all. So he could very well turn out to be the X factor in this game, not only on the offensive side of the ball but also on special teams. You never know when he's going to break a punt and run one back. He hasn't had one this year. He could very well be due. And if Cam's able to have a few extra seconds back in the pocket, you know how well his speed is downfield, and like I said, as long as he brings that Stickum, I'd be worried about him breaking downfield and making a huge catch.
And a reminder to our thousands of listeners, well, all 7 of them, that we're listening to Chris Schafer and his great insights. Chris writes for Fansided. So there's such a big expectation that the game MVP is going to be one of the quarterbacks. That's almost all we've talked about, really. Who's your dark horse candidate for the award, if it's not going to be Cam or Peyton?
From either side of the ball, or just one side?
Either side.
Thomas Davis. Thomas Davis, by all means. The man's been waiting his whole career. He has that opportunity, and if anything, his arm could be halfway falling off, and I guarantee he would still be playing next week or this whatever it is next Sunday. If I don't know if you saw the Showtime piece inside the NFL when they had him mic'd up, and he was back on the sidelines, and he was telling Luke, he said surgery in the morning, and I'm going to be playing in the Super Bowl, and there's nothing that's going to keep him out of that game. But on top of that, he's come up big in key situations this year where you don't realize how big his play's been. The onside kick, how high did he get? And then he took a heck of a hit. The interception against Green Bay, it's those little things that a man like Davis has done that has helped the team together and really, I don't want to say changed, but really brought the defense even more together. And it's those plays that you don't really realize. And he's a very, very, very viable candidate to have a heck of a game and make a big game-changing play that could easily give him the most valuable player award of the game.
Hey, Chris, will you be watching the Puppy Bowl or the Lingerie Bowl? And, of course, we want to know who wins the big game. Contractually obligated, and the fact that our management team did not pay the NFL to say the word Super Bowl. I'm just going to say it again, Super Bowl. But what's your thoughts on that? Is it the Puppy Bowl, Lingerie Bowl, or and who wins the game? What are you watching next week?
Well, actually, I'll be on a plane. I fly back from San Francisco in the morning in time to get home just in time to hit the couch and be watching the big game. So, you'll have to let me know who wins the others. But
got it.
I'm missing the Lingerie Bowl though. That's gonna stink. You might have to TiVo that one for me and send me a copy.
Got it.
But
got it.
I think that in terms of the big game, it just seems that I don't want to use the word destiny, but it just seems that everything has been falling in place this year for the Panthers. If you could tell me that back in training camp and in that scrimmage against the Dolphins when Kelvin Benjamin went down and he tore his ACL, that a couple months later, what would it be 6-7 months later, Panthers would be playing in Santa Clara, I might have laughed in your face. And and that's coming from somebody who would have loved to say, yeah, we're going to make a run right then. So it just seems as if it's been destiny throughout the year. One guy goes down, somebody else steps up. Look at the first 4 games. One of the games against, the Saints when Josh Norman made the game-winning interception. How the heck did he jump that high? I don't think I've ever seen anybody jump that high in my life. Like I mentioned before, Thomas Davis intercepting Aaron Rodgers here in Green Bay after the big comeback that Rodgers put up. Look at the game against the Colts. They've just seemed to have continually found a way to win. And, I think that there is going to be that same mentality, and I know there'll be that same mentality where no matter what happens, the next guy steps up, even from the injury side. It's been a thing where when Ben Wickery went down, everybody's like, oh, this secondary is hurt even more. Well, there's 2 guys now in the secondary that were both sitting on their couches 2.5 months ago. One who was semi-retired, and now they're playing in the Super Bowl. It just seems as if there's almost been that true factor where the Panthers have found a way to make whatever's needed happen. Even against the Giants, if you saw that game, when Eli came down and scored, and then they had that shot of Cam on the sidelines with whatever it was, 1:20, 1:30 left, and he just shook his head. He knew he had it in the bag and was going to come down, and the Panthers were going to win that game. It's just that mentality of the team and the quarterback that you have that positiveness that something's going to happen here and it's going to be special.
Hey, Chris, we want to thank you for being our featured guest on Baseball Beer and Barbecue. Could you tell our millions, well, some will say billions of fans, where you can be found on the interwebs?
You broke up. Excuse me. What was that? Where? Where what?
Best place to find you on the web.
At Chris Schafe, SCHAFE 1, for Twitter, and we'll hopefully be posting some things throughout the week, coming up this week, and getting some good coverage and go from there, and hopefully next next Sunday night about 10 o'clock, we'll be having a very big party. A very big party.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Chris, for being on. And, in the future, we'd love to have you on again if you can make it. But thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, Chris was fantastic. So it was, I think, a lot of different takes from different guests on this show, and they all had, very strong opinions and very knowledgeable. Chris was extremely knowledgeable, and I'm envious of him, to be honest. He gets to cover the whole thing, and we get to observe the observers. So it's at you guys' sake. We want to hold off on our prediction and score about what's going to happen in the Super Bowl until next week, I think. But I think it's pretty clear that I think the Panthers are going to win. I don't think it's going to be a close game at all. You guys, you want to hold off until next week to actually have a score prediction, Todd and Ted?
Yeah, I'll hold off, but I do want to remind our listeners that actually we do, as Ted said, we do have billions of listeners, and
billions.
It's a huge, huge group of listeners, and they're all very beautiful, huge, huge listeners that back us and support us. And frankly, we could go out and shoot their mothers in the face, and they would still listen to us.
Well,
they love us.
Nobody's shooting anybody. Yes.
They love us, and our billions are more than your more billions.
Easy for you to say.
I'm telling you. Billions of fans. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. Trillions now.
What's beyond trillions? Gazillion? That's the next thing?
Quadrillions, and then quintillions, which is a ballroom.
That's right.
Social.
And then beyond that is Trump.
Yeah, that's
Trump. Exactly.
Trumpillions. Trumpillions. Well, that's our show.
I'm sick.
That's right. Again, we'd like to thank everyone who replays this show, and we'd like to thank our guests Pamela, Michelle, Tim Lynch, and Chris Schafer for being on. Tune in next Saturday, where we will have Danny Kelly of Field Goals, SB Nation, Sharona, Antoine Staley, and next show we have on the Happy Hour Network that's live is the tennis scene. Monday night we'll have two great guests on to talk about what happened in the Australian Open. Ted, what's going on with Late Night Parent this Wednesday?
Oh, this Wednesday we're looking to have GuyTech, the CEO of GuyTech, and why that's important to you is the CEO of one of the many hoverboard companies that's out there, and we want to talk about the bans and the safety hazards and the fact that everyone is kind of like, hey, don't bring your product anywhere near me because it's illegal now. So we're going to be talking with the CEO of a hoverboard company. And what's happening on Thursday?
Well, Thursday, Ted. That was my radio voice. Was that good? So anyway, yeah, Thursday we're back with Seahawks Show, our monthly edition of the show, and we'll have a guest who covers the Seahawks for 12th Man Rising, fan-sided Seahawks show, and we'll be talking free agent moves, and we'll talk a little bit about the Super Bowl, of course, as well. So definitely looking forward to that. It's 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, Seahawks Show, and then of course we're right back here next Saturday. So it should be a really fun week for everybody, hopefully. So any final words, you guys?
They love us. Everyone loves us.
They do.
Everyone loves us. And
Go ahead, Todd.
I was just going to say I'm so glad that Ted worked out his contract negotiation in mid-show and came back. That's very important. Very important to me.
Yeah, it was very Cam Chancellor-esque, except we didn't give him any more money, which was a miracle in itself, and that's how we'll end the show. Thanks for listening.
Do the Titans have a miracle left in them? Christie kicks it high and short. Going to be fielded by Lorenzo Neal at the 25.
Yeah,
pitches it back to Wycheck. He throws it across the field to Dyson.
He's got something.
30,
He's got
40,
something.
50.
He's got it.
40,
He's got it.
20, 10.
He's got it.
End zone. Touchdown Titans. There are no flags on the field. It's a miracle. Tennessee has pulled a miracle.